Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Bonkekook here, aka the Lonely Achievement God, continuing our 1000G achievement walkthrough for Lawn Mowing Simulator. We're moving on to Amateur Challenge number 2. As you can see, it is in the Jefferson Garden, and we need to cut the lawn in time. We have a 28-minute cutting time limit. That's basically the only thing we have to look out for here. We do have half the fine limit that we had in the last one, but that shouldn't be an issue. And we're using the OFS one from the night. So we're just going to jump in and give it a shot like we did before. As always, I will be here, but I might go quiet for a little bit if there's nothing that needs to be added in. We're going to just hop on and do the setup here, and I like to cut in first person mode. That is kind of up to you, but I feel like you can get better detail in first person mode. So we're going to do the 5 to 6 centimeters and then press B to lower the deck and engage the blades, and off we go. Now we have to get this done in 28 minutes. Do you think we can do it? I sure hope so, or else I'm going to have to record this again. This first run around this level is miserable, so do not feel bad if you are running into things. Feel free to run into things. Ride your mower right up into this hedge. When it comes out, ride right up against the wall. You don't want to leave any, excess grass just sitting around. And once you get this outer section done, then it's pretty easy sledding from there. The central trees are easy to avoid running into, and there's a pond or something, fountain, something similar in the middle that is quite easy to line up properly with and avoid without hitting. But these hedges are a pain in the butt, so don't be afraid to just drive right up into them and take the fine for it. Well, as I said, once you get this first lap done, essentially, the rest is fairly straightforward. Just hold the right trigger down as constantly as you can and just make the turns. You don't have to make them too sharp. Again, you don't want to overload your mower, but you do need to make sure you're getting about 80% of the grass, new grass cut, so there should try to line up. We're gonna missed a little bit there. Try to line up the new grass at about 80%. Well, we're about 70 to right now, but right about there. And then just make little tweaks so that you're not overloading your engine, because as we described in Challenge 1, we do have a penalty and fine meter in the bottom left-hand corner that will tell you how close you are to failing for getting too many penalties or fines. And there's also a red bar in the engine condition bar down there. And if you reach that red bar with your engine condition, which is from, overloading your engine too much, you will automatically fail the challenge. So always keep that in mind as you're driving your circles. You don't want to do less than like 80% of the grass, but you need to be able to counter that by slowing down whenever your engine is about to be overloaded. And again, we're on early challenges. There's a lot of leeway here. Unless you're mowing for like an hour and a half, on most levels, you're never going to get your engine condition down as far as that red bar, unless you're just driving forward, not caring about the engine overloading. So and if you're getting overloaded a bit, drop move your mower a little bit to the right so that you're cutting less grass at a time. You have plenty of time here, don't worry about it. Excuse me. And you can kind of estimate how well you're doing. We're approaching the 20% mark, and we're, what, about 4.5 minutes in, 5 minutes in? So, if that's the case, you're looking at about a total of 25 minutes if we kept this pace up, which is under the par time. So, we're doing pretty good. If you can do quick math like that, you can kind of estimate how you've been doing and what pace you're on when it comes to, in this case, for the timed challenges. But it is worth noting that these first laps are going to take the longest because you're covering the most ground. So the closer you get to the center of the area, if you have a square like this where you're covering less and less area as you go through the center, it's going to be skewed to be longer to start, and then you'll get more grass per time. I know that's not an actual metric, but usually if you try to extrapolate from the first 5 minutes to, like we just did, to 25 minutes, you're actually going to be a little bit slower than you expect. Like, you'll wind up finishing in like 22 minutes or 23 minutes instead of 25. So we'll see if that's the case here. I might just be talking nonsense out my butt. But if we have a 28-minute time limit and we're already past the 25% mark, we're in really good shape. It also doesn't help that first pass on the outside, you're not cutting as much grass as you do when you get your mower into the fields, because you're just looking at edging everything instead of getting a bulk cut. I hope that makes sense, but we're approaching 33%, and if we were going to be worried, we'd probably be about 19 minutes, maybe a little less than that if we were going to be worried about finishing this. So we're making good time. Corners are one of the rough things. Turning, often I've noticed when I'm turning and trying to continue cutting, I overload my engine, and I think that's because I'm turning a little too early, so we're getting more of a cut. So you actually want to, when you're turning, you want to kind of turn a little outside of the grass you've already cut, and then kind of round off the edge instead of just trying to get your whole mower to cut everything when you turn, because if you turn too sharply, your mower gets overloaded very quickly. You've noticed that a couple of times on this level so far, so it's not a big deal. Again, we're early, we have plenty of forgiveness for overloading the engine and stuff like that on this level, but it's something you will have to watch on the more difficult challenges. I did not intend to hit that hard. Whoops. But Again, something else you can do, and this happens in first-person mode anyways, is you can find portions on the mower to try to line up with. So, like, underneath the wheel there, you can see kind of the white lines that are under the steering wheel that are just forming the base of the mower. You can try to line up the grass with those if you're having more trouble with the cutting. Especially once we get into the thicker grass here, it can be a little more difficult to keep your speed up and mow a significant portion of the grass. So if you want to, you can use the left or right white bars to try to center and aim, or you can use the center of the mower to try to aim. It's kind of up to you to get a feel for how well you can react to overloading your mower, and if you want to risk that. And part of the challenge of going through these challenges, especially the more difficult ones, is figuring out how to balance that properly. So we're over 50%, and we're only, what, 10.5 minutes in, maybe 11? So we're in excellent shape. We should have no problem finishing this contract. So make sure, again, you're just taking your time so you don't overload your engine. You can also just try to take your finger off the acceleration when you turn, just for a split second. That's sometimes the best method to get through when you're starting to overload your engine too, is to just take your finger off the accelerator for a second. It can sometimes allow you to balance it out. You might just be going through a heavier patch of grass. It'll allow the mower to catch up. %. There are a couple of levels where you have to worry about grass clippings and stuff like that, and that's not something the game teaches you about very well. And so there's a challenge. One of the expert challenges is quite difficult because you have to cut the grass in a way that it doesn't discharge onto, like, the sidewalk and the dirt. But there's a couple of challenges that it really doesn't matter, that the penalties are so small it doesn't add up to anything. But there's an expert challenge that you have to learn that mower and how it discharges so that you can properly cut the grass without building up too many fines. And that's the kind of stuff that makes the expert challenges difficult, because the game itself doesn't really do a good job of teaching you any of that stuff. So you just kind of have to learn for yourself as you go through. Like the striping cut, they never tutorial that for you. Like litter contracts, I can understand not tutorialing that, but the striping contract never give you a tutorial. So I actually couldn't figure out how to do the striping contracts to start until I accidentally bumped the right bumper while I was driving over and the arrows popped up. Because I actually had been avoiding the striping contracts for a long time, and I actually unlocked, I think, one of the striping challenges. So I was like, well, maybe I can learn it by doing that. And so while I was messing around in the challenge for striping, I hit the right bumper and the arrows came up, and I was like, oh crap, that's how you do it. So that's information that would have been nice to know. And now I'm just kind of babbling, because there's not a whole lot else to tell. You can see the lines where I've turned too sharply and left grass behind there. Again, for these early challenges, you don't have to be perfect, so don't worry about it. Save your desire to be perfect for those expert ones, because a couple of them will be challenging. I guess that's why they're called challenges, but And again, we had these 3 little areas left that were going to be separated. So what I did is I kept mowing, but I turned around and went back to the farthest grouping so that we could focus on the farthest grouping and work our way back towards the grass closest to the entrance. That'll save us a little bit of time, and learning to get those seconds back could be the difference in finishing a couple of the expert contracts. So that's the kind of little things you're going to have to look to do when you are working on the expert ones. We're not going to be too stressed out about these early contracts. They're relatively easy. And again, we're about 33% left in our fines and penalties bar. If you do start to get close to failing, you do have to be a little more cautious when you get to this pool in the center and trees and stuff like that. So flowers on some levels, and there we are. We finished the contract. We didn't even need to go back again. That one was a fairly easy one, only a 99.5% expectation to finish. And we'll just drive back onto the trailer. And that'll be the end of the second challenge. So if you have any questions or comments for me, let me know down below. Otherwise, I'll see you in Amateur Challenge 3.